So, for this assignment is for Blythe. I have to do five. I have to solve 5 questions. One from common factoring, one from difference of squares, one from simple trinomial factoring, one from perfect square factoring, and one from tricky trinomial factoring. So the first question is going to be for common factoring. It is question 3C on page 203 of the textbook. I have to state the greatest common factor of a and b and a squared, b squared. So the way you can solve this is, well, you can just look at it and say it's a and b pretty easily, but if you can't do that, you can divide each side by a and b, and then that'll get you that'll get you a plus b, ab plus 1, because ab divided by ab is 1, and then a squared b squared divided by ab is ab. Once you get that, you put what you divided by outside the brackets, and whatever's most commonly there is your greatest common factor, which is AB. The next question is for difference of square factoring. The question is 5A on page 230. I have to factor x squared minus 25x. So this one, again, is pretty simple. You just have to square root the x squared and square root the negative 25, or square root 25, and just to make it easier. And so obviously square root of x squared is just going to be x. So you'll have 2 brackets, and then you take the x and put it down in each bracket, and then square root of 25 is 5, but it needs to become a negative, so you make one a positive and one a negative, or one a negative and one a positive. And that'll get you x minus 5 in brackets times x plus 5. Next question is simple trinomial factoring. This question, so we have, it's 4A on page 211. The question is x squared plus 2x plus 1. Then we have to factor this. So we need to find something that when times by each other it gets 1, because because the final number are there, the number by itself, the plus 1, and sorry, let me restart that. So we need to find a number that is added to both of the, that is the product of timesing x squared and 1, which is basically just 1 times 1, which is 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. And then when added together gets us 2x, which is 1. So you just break that apart. Take the x squared, you split it apart, take it down, put the x at the start of each brackets, and then there's 2 1s to get everything, so it's x plus 1 in brackets, x plus 1 in brackets, and then you can simplify that even more to make it x plus 1 squared, or in brackets x plus 1 outside of the brackets squared. The next question is for perfect square factoring. It's question 6A on page 230. I have to factor x squared plus 10x plus 25. And again, we just have to find a number that when times by each other gets 25 and added to each other gets 10. So, and then we also have to split apart the x. So it's just also going to be x plus 5 in brackets, x plus 5 in brackets, and then to simplify it again, x plus 5 in brackets squared. Now the final one is for tricky trinomials, trinomial factoring. It's question 5e on page 223. We have to factor 2c squared plus 5c minus 12. This one's a little bit more tricky, as the name implies. So I'm just going to label 2c as A and the negative 12 as B. So we have to find, so we times them by each other. It gets us negative 24. And then also, we have to find a number, two numbers actually, that when added to each other, not only when times by each other do they equal negative 24, but when added to each other, they equal 5. And so you just can really do this by process of elimination. Do 1 and 24, it's not it. 2 and 12, that's not it. Negative 3 and 8, that will work, because when you add negative 3 and 8, you get 5. And when you times negative 3 by 8, just double check that. Yeah, you get negative 24. And so, come down and split it apart to get 2c plus x, 8x minus 3x minus 12. And you just take the two sides, put them in the brackets. 2c squared plus 8x in brackets plus negative 3c minus 21 in brackets. Ooh, I did not mean to put that as 21. I made a silly mistake. Yeah, so just change that, change that there, so 3c plus 24, negative 3c minus 24. And so we want to factor everything out as much as we can. So we can, 8x is divisible by 2c, so we take the 2c out, and when 2c is divided by 2c squared, it's just c, and then when 8x is divided by 2c, it's just 4. And then we take out the 3c, or really just the 3, and we factor it in. So it just gets us c, so we take the 3 out, and it leaves us with c plus 8. And then we just have to factor out the c plus 8 to get us 2c minus 3 in brackets, c plus 4 in brackets.